Start whenever.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ayana is just into on Zoom. You have to.
Mayor Armstead, Daniel Yamakaitis, Dr. Hazelton, Mayor Polish, Fred Towski, Robert Ayers, Dr. Berghammer, Susan Stanch, Deborah Azevedo, Deanna Bird,
Here.
Peter Brown.
Here.
Okay.
So, agenda, I think the first thing we have to discuss is the open public meeting law. Or we want to go finance committee?
What we should do, what you mean is that
You have to
meeting was advertised to the newspapers and the city hall. The 48 hours.
48 hours. If I type in all the 48.
Long ago. It was on the original schedule, so it was.
You have to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
All right, you have to approve the minutes.
I guess they didn't get the letter.
Yes. Are they in there?
The letter.
Oh, there's a letter, the correspondence about the difficulty. The suggestion that we consider a stenographer.
So then we don't have any minutes for May, June, and July. So I thought Danny was doing the minutes.
He was working with Teresa.
Yes. So he was, but nothing got done?
She was working on it, but it's very difficult considering other things that were going on, so.
So then basically, minutes for May, June, and July.
Not yet,
None of them.
not right now.
So we cannot, no.
No, it's not concluded at this point.
All right. So moving forward for this meeting, we're recording it. So we have to get a stenographer to be able to put.
I would recommend, given the amount of detail we're gathering, board members want in these minutes, that we would need a stenographer. Obviously, we don't have one tonight.
Yes,
I personally have done the meeting minutes a few years ago.
yes.
I can tell you from experience, it takes literally hours to get through. So it's a challenge, more challenging than I think most people realize.
Something that needs to be recorded.
It is
It is
recorded, but it still
recorded,
has to be, it still has to be a paper.
We just have to transcribe it.
There still has to be, so, I mean, we do, the meeting gets recorded, but there still has to be a written record that we can put on the webpage, make it available at our public desks, and make available to anyone else. So you can't hand them a tape. So
You would just hire one somewhere?
There's
I'm
software
suggesting.
that does that now.
You know where to hire one from?
no, okay.
Does anybody
As
know?
long
So
as
you know that there's software
if you
that does that.
authorize me to hire one, we'll hire.
The plastic beach should not, like, it would literally do everything, it would take hours. Like, it's not, it's just kind of like, it's not, but it's not a transcription for like a talk box. Like, that's
Deposition. But I know that there is software out there right now that they can see, that could go from audio to text. And then it could then be edited.
We would have to look into that and see how accurate it is. And so
It is transcribed, but then edited for accuracy. But there is software. They do it a lot in dissertation. People who get in the PhD and stuff like that. Or people who do it, you know.
I mean, how, that's critical of the PhD, this is 4 meetings that are recorded, it's just for the work, the documentation is for files.
Yes.
generally, the minutes have been seen as summaries and not a word for word, but it's been criticized. And certainly, I've been director for some time, and it's been made an issue a number of times in the past that they want, board members have wanted very specific word for word quotes, and it's time consuming. If this is what you want, and quite frankly, if this should erase questions of accuracy, it's an outside person, so there's no influence of the staff member, influence of board member, which can always be, which has been certainly questioned in the past, including when I did it. So if you get someone totally removed, whether it's a machine or a person, so this is what we want, we can do that.
But is there anything that states that it must be in writing? Can it be stored electronically as well?
I believe it has to be in writing.
Be in writing.
Because we even get copies of the Board of Education, which I'm sure are available elsewhere, but they send them to us every month, every meeting, and we still have them available, so.
Because they have a separate.
I mean, technically, anyone can come to the library and get this, where people can say, well, I don't have a computer, I don't understand it, so that there's.
Is there a market for an employee like that that would come out once a month?
Sure, so same thing, so.
So what would it cost, 25 an hour or 10? Anybody that puts?
I mean, honestly, it's something, even when I went to high school, that was one of the careers they told us about. And, I thought, no, I don't want to do this, but it was something that for reporters, they go in, they do word for word, and then they actually make extra money by people copies of it, but it's a career, so it's a person who literally will do it word for word.
The city of Linden has them through court.
I don't think we necessarily have to, because it's a service, so I don't think we're not actually going to put a person on payroll as salary benefits, it's just going to be calling out the rate.
Peter
Kind of
Brown,
like the,
Peter Brown just made a comment. I
oh,
don't know if you
sorry.
heard. Mr. Brown?
Every year, the city has to go out for court interpreters who do that type of work. If you guys really want to be serious, just use one of those people per diem, per meeting. They get hired per the court appearance, so it's already set in the municipal budget. If you're talking about someone to type down minutes, hire whoever the court uses.
I don't want to change it. I don't want to change it now in the middle of the movie, but in the middle of the meeting, but we'll check it next time.
Could you
He's,
access the- So I think it was set properly before.
yeah, I'm not sure. Mr. Brown said that they have somebody who does it at City Hall. They have to contract it out every year, so.
That's it, sure.
Yeah.
Then I don't know why.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They hear us over there, but I don't know why this, and this is all being picked up.
Then you have to make it for the volume of the.
Is his volume up?
It says volume up.
Peter, is your volume all the way up?
Yes.
Can't hear.
Can you guys hear me better?
I can hear you through the computer. It's not being picked up overhead. I don't know. We'll have to check the settings tomorrow.
Mr.
You
McCarthy.
just tell them it's just a simple matter. The court, or so then I'll follow up with Dennis tomorrow if you guys cannot hear me. But it's whoever the court uses. They use a court interpreter. Those guys are certified. They have to go through a process with the vendors, right? And they're hired per diem per court. So maybe doing the same thing with the board, it would make sense.
Miss,
So they wanted to get the same person as before, which is fine. If it's good enough for the city, it should be good enough.
I think that's an excellent idea.
So we can do that.
So right now, based on this, we are just looking at our options for. Sonographer.
I can find out the information and send it to the board ASAP and hopefully have something for the next meeting.
So we could make a table idea of a cost. What is the cost of having someone transcribe so that highlights and synopsis of the meetings? Where that money is going to be taken away from programming, the things that really are critical.
Board meetings.
Well, I wouldn't hire anyone without finding out, so I would
Right,
find
I
out
mean, like,
prices. So.
it's going to take that into budget, that's already, you know.
Sure.
So,
Let's assume, for example, we have a meeting. We want so much, even if it costs, say, $200-300. But that's all of money. Really, for stuff like this, I think that we need to talk about.
You know, it adds up, which I'm not crazy about paying all the money, but on the other hand, it should remove the controversy of questioning minutes, which is, like I said, something I've been going through.
if it's recorded, anything could be played back. I rather, like, for me, seeing that money go towards funding for children's programs at first is critical.
Like, how long do we keep the audio recordings for?
Did you can keep on the class for
Ever.
forever.
But I'm keeping on with them.
Of course, I would imagine, right now, the platforms are such that you can support.
I mean, you could store it forever. Forever. I still think we should look at the options and the cost people guide what to.
Doesn't hurt to find out how
Yeah.
much, and we'll find out how much. And if it's absurd, and then.
Yeah.
We could hold us to that if we wanted. We're gonna have the committee report. Finance report. Yes.
As we do every September, we have to do like a little housekeeping from prior months as far as getting the bills paid, et cetera. So we'll start out this way. It's the appropriation of bills. And do I really have to read each single? Is it really necessary? Probably. All right. Appropriation of bills from June 15th through September 13th, 2021 are as follows. In June, the general fund, $65,190.48. Projects and grants fund, $325. July, the general fund, $81,579.13. Projects and grants, $250. August, from general fund, $57,189.31. Projects and grants, $400. September, general fund, $69,573.11. Projects and grants, $144.69. So I would need a motion to pay all these bills. The dates, as I said, June 15th through September 13th, 2021. So we would need a motion on that.
So
No, they're paid, just a technicality. Everything's gotta be. You need a motion to pass it. Make a motion? Second thing I'd like to talk about. Pretty soon they're gonna be having, contract negotiations. We don't know what the percentage is gonna be as far as an increase goes. One senior citizen on social security, I keep hearing the number 6%, for COLAs. I assume that's the number the unions would might want to start at 6 or 7%. Hopefully it'll drop down to 2 or 3, how they used to over the last 10 years, paying a little or up to 2%. My point being, I would think that the pay raises will be substantial, when the contract time comes, not 2%. I think it's definitely going to be higher due to the fact that inflation is 5% or so this year. And if you go by Social Security, they're talking a COLA of about 6%. There's nothing we can do about it. We're going to wait for the unions and bargainners all get together. But I just wanted, so there's no sticker shock come a couple months from now. We start here at 5%, 6%, if that's possible. These negotiations, they start high, we go low, they come out in the middle. But I think it's definitely going to be more than 2%. That's my personal opinion. Pardon me? I don't know. It depends. Usually it's free, but that's whatever City Hall does. That's what we're going to do.
There's been no movement, so
Yeah,
it's all speculation.
right. But I just wanted to give you sort of an idea, what's going on down the road as far as expenditures are going to be.
I see they are having a lot of for a long time. I see a lot of them have been dying or retired. How many people retired that have employed that has been employed over say 5 years? How many?
Over 5 years?
Yes.
Part-timers.
They're part-timers who have been here over 5 years?
Few part-timers. The librarians, I believe, are all here more than 5 years. We have some library assistants who are here under 5 years. Most, but one of the maintenance people under and 2 over. Paige, I think, is over 5. Is Paige over 5?
Page is over 5.
Paige is over 5 also. We only have one page, but she's over 5 also.
Can you talk a little louder?
Yeah, I have not been part of negotiations. And the reason why I'm asking questions about how many over, how many under. For the part-timers, so obviously we still have a lot of part-timers. So the part-timers raise will also be 5, 6%. Consider
Oh, yeah, right down the line. Yeah,
everyone.
everyone. Now, I just throwing that number out. I'm just throwing
I
that.
just don't know. I'm just
I'm just saying that you can say 5, 6%. You're talking 6%, Social Security. Unions are going to want somewhere close to that. That's just my opinion. I don't think it's going to be 2% like it was, basically last time. Again, I'm just having chatter about it. Just give you a little insight. Nothing like Dennis says it's moving, but it's eventually going to move. It's going to move in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. So just so everybody is aware.
No, our last negotiation, we had to deal with some retroactive pay.
5 years worth.
Have we gotten caught up there?
Yes,
So we have been caught up.
right.
So now everything that we do in the negotiation
Right.
is moving forward. Guys, what happened is that, just to give you guys an update, because of financial constraints, the library staff did not get a raise for over 5 years.
Now, hold on. Just so you know, this is not just the library.
Yeah,
This was the
everybody.
entire, basically the entire city hall and everything. That it was 4 or 5 years, no raises.
So could you explain it to them as a finance person what went on?
Well, we had to make up, when they did the contract, they had all these years to go back. Cost you a lot of money.
Even.
When you only have 1 year and everybody gets $1,000 raise, it's not bad. But when you got back paid 4 years or 5 years, that first year cost you $4,000. The following year, that was fine. I mean, it's ended up. It's goes up exponentially.
But the-
Now it's simple. As long as you get the contract settled within a good amount of time, it's just 1 year at a time.
I would like that occur because one of
Well,
the things.
we don't really have to say, this is gonna be between negotiators and you. Dennis, you want to talk?
I was just gonna say, it was actually the same thing you said, which whether or not there's a retroactive pay depends on how quickly so if we sit on them for 5 years again, you're gonna wind up with potentially 5 years of back pay. If negotiate and settle a contract within a few months, there'd be very limited. So there's no, I don't want anyone to be thinking there will not be retro pay because we caught up, because there may or may not.
The last time went on year to year to year. I mean, it's brutal.
But our new budget the next year, would it be able to support the
We don't have a budget for next year, but sometime in October, we get the third of the mill number, usually at the beginning. But again, I'm not gonna guarantee that. And that would be the minimum the city has to give us. And then we can either accept that, or we can try to convince the city to give us more, but as of right now, there's no way. It's been ticking up the last several years. It doesn't guarantee, it may stay flat and may drop. I can't predict that, so.
So we really don't know, even with the contract, because of the fact we don't even have what you're gonna get from the city, everything else, then it's just that is up in the air.
Right now, theoretically, but it's been
It's always like,
It's been like that for 50, 60 years.
when I get the number, I will send it to the board members for everyone to digest, and we have no control. It's based on property values, a formula which I can't fully explain, but it's based on property values. So when property values go up, our budget goes up. If property values going down, that's why several years in a row we went down. The last several years we've been going back up. So, but I can't predict that.
Peter, Brown, Peter,
Yes.
I need to ask, I know you were the finance ways, when it comes to the budget and stuff like that, I know Dennis was saying it's based on just real estate. Does it take into consideration vacant properties and all of that when they're creating the bill?
When it comes with the budget, can you guys hear me?
A little.
Barely.
All right, is this loud enough? Is that better if I speak loud like this?
Yeah.
Okay, when it comes to the budget, I've always worked with Bob Ayers and Dennis and other members there on the budget. And what happens with the budget is that every year they're trying to fit in this up and down cycle of what the municipality gives them as the minimum. They don't get that number till later on in the year when property taxes, assessments, and all this other stuff like this. Then they're scrambling, trying to put a budget together. I suggest is that it's very simple. We should have a set budget. Let's just say if it's $2 million and go to the city with a budget because we service the needs of the population. That makes sense. We keep going up and down and this and that, and you can't properly fund and manage a library when you're constantly moving. It's like a moving target with the budget. I think now if we have a board that's pro-library, and seeing how COVID has kept people inside and people have not have access to books and things, and the library has been like really stable, we should now take the approach of, let's just say if it's a $2 million budget, and approach it with the city. The city will give you the minimum, but they can give more. The approach that we should get the bare minimum does not make sense in a world that needs education. Does that make sense? So city can give the bare minimum, but that's dictated to the state. The board can say we want 2 million, and the city's up to the city to give the minimum and then the excess. We can make the case why it's needed. And then you could budget appropriately for year 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's what I did on the municipal end.
Peter, it's a shame that we can't hear you good, because what you're saying sounds so interesting.
I'll write it down. I'll send an email.
When you on the recording, Teresa, on the recording is pretty clear. So we can-
Yes, the recording comes out crystal clear. I'm not sure why, and I don't want to play with any of these settings in the middle of the meeting.
It seems to be working fine before.
Yes, I just want to know that, because that's, you know.
Oh, hold on, James, can you hear me? Fine? Is it coming choppy on you? Because James is virtual.
I got you clear as day, Peter.
So what happens is probably the acoustics in that room over there.
No, it's the setting with the new microphone
Okay.
Is the right
that's
people-
overhead.
is the right, trustee spoken?
For the record, we, most years have asked for more. We figure out what we need to get by, what we need to move forward. We often ask the city for more. And then it's up to them whether they give it to us. So sometimes we convince them and sometimes we haven't. And the last few years, I would say that the budget hearings have been much more positive than the previous 7 years. But they're acknowledging that we've done a lot to move forward and do better, and they have generally given us at least more, some of
Exactly,
some
at
of
least to keep us going.
So instead of just giving us the bare minimum like they had been, they've been acknowledging that so.
Peter's helped us out many times over the years.
If anybody wants the third of the mill formula, I can email it to you, just let me know. I'll try to explain it to you. I've had it explained. I mean, the gist of it is based on property value, but since they say formula, there are other aspects. to it. But if you want it, I'll share it. It's no secret because they tell all of us when we started as directors, so.
I just know that every single year I've been on the board and every year, in 3 years, we get this. If you guys, you haven't been part of it. And that's why I'm preparing you guys. It's not that I want to spend time in this, but this gets really right.
Well, Ron, we begged many times, me and Dennis and Maryland,
Yes, because sometimes.
focuses and everything else, you're at the, one of the politicians. Like I said, Mr. Brown has been very, very good with when he was on the financial committee there. We got through some tough times here, and, it's been this way for, like I said, long before I was on the board, and I don't see it really changing.
But can I explain something? Can you guys? Bill, can you guys hear me? All right. And he's right. The way that has always been presented to the council is that they looked at book circulations and other data, and I want to use the word data, as a way of justifying how they were funding the library, as opposed to what the purpose of the library is. So a lot of times Dennis would come to the library or Bill saying, we need X amount of money for book circulations. And the council would go back and saying, well, we don't need this. They were making policy through the council rather than the trustees saying, this is what we need, and trusting the trustees and trusting the director saying, if they said they needed 1.9, they would get 1.9. And so what Bill was trying to do, and the trustees, they were trying to build up reserves in case of a rainy day, similar to what the city did. So in case there was contract negotiations and things like this, they were trying to manage years ago, trying to prevent dipping into the reserves. That's the history I remember. Now, what happens is that the city's getting flush of cash. They literally, the tax breaks, this, that, everything else. Now it's time to replenish the library. It's your only, literally, it's the only library throughout the whole city. You went from 3 to 2 to 1. But they were using book circulations as the data when we know people have gone more digital. They've gone like many different ways to utilize their library. So we need to come with a budget, present it to the treasurer, and then to the finance committee. This is our mission. This is what we're looking to do. Here's our 3, 4, 5-year plan. That's what I did with them. They can't say no at this point.
Very interesting, I must say. So much to learn about and so much stuff. So I'm sure we all are work in progress, and I think I'm confident again one of us will get a grasp of it.
One other thing I like to talk about, which is Dennis is going to talk about more. A few months ago, we had Michael Alexia. He came here and talked about being a grant writer, things he was going to do. I don't know if you've all read through the, and you'll see that we've gotten 2 grants.
Yes, yes.
One for $137,000, one for $25,000. And I think we really owe a deep kind of applaud, gratitude. I mean, Dennis, I don't know, you fully get your bang for your buck yet, and we're just paying this guy like $25 an hour. I mean, from what I've heard about grant writers, they usually work on a percentage. I mean, it's $162,000 in grants. Now, what I get, because I'm not in the education business, getting grants, you gotta be a very special person, the way it's gotta be worded, et cetera. This guy knows what he's doing, so, and he's already gotten results in a few months, which I think is impressive. I don't know if he's working on anything else or not. We know Michael, because I've known him for 40 years. Probably is, wherever you can find them, so I just want to make mention that, this guy is good. You got $162,000 there. I mean, that's when you're talking real money. Where you can do things, buy things. I hate things. $1,000 here, $2,000 here, don't quite crap now. You need to be talking tens of thousands, 50,000. Nothing's cheap anymore. So when you can get that kind of money, you can accomplish things, right, Dennis?
You want me to just talk about it now since you?
I think so. Why don't you? I mean,
Before the, when he was working on a grant for the extensions, how is that going? Remember when we were gonna?
We haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, but
No.
all right.
That one, we expected a pretty lengthy wait before a response, so we're getting close to it, I think, but it's toward the end of the year, so we don't know anything about it. So, yeah, we got two grants. One was $24,250 from the State Library and IMLS American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Grants for new public libraries, which will get us new PCs for the public. We've been going through updating computers. When we updated the public computers several years back, the city helped us with that. Last year, we updated the staff computers. It's time to update the public computers again. We have our public access catalogs, which are still the original machines, which they don't need a lot of processing power because they don't do much, but they're still at this point, I think 12 years old. So they're ready to go. So we have ordered them and they're on back order. So should be here sometime next month. The big one is the New Jersey Department of Health Equity Response to COVID-19. Originally we put in for 100,000. They were pleased with our project plan and gave us 37,000 extra, so we can have a temporary part-time social worker to be part of this. Had a webinar with people involved in this grant last week. They're very excited to work with us. There are only 6 recipients in the state. Two from northern New Jersey, 2 from central, and 2 from south. So we got in central. So we're one of 6 winners, which is I'm impressed with that. State pilot program, successful program methodologies will be rolled out across the state. It's about COVID, about the reaction to COVID. They're hoping to help the community understand how to manage chronic illness. And if they can do that, they can hopefully cut down the complications of COVID. Among other things, it'd be Community Health Empowerment Center in the lobby. Should have a fully automatic blood pressure machine, digital scale, signs, pamphlets, information regarding health fairs, scheduled events, and they want to do monthly health fairs. Each month has a dedicated topic, so we have respiratory health, diabetes, senior health, obesity, bone and joint disease, Alzheimer's disease, heart disease. These will have incentives, so they have things like gift cards from $25 to $100, reusable masks, other related health objects. So they're not just counting on, they're really trying to get people in. So I know that some people just won't come, but if they they see there's an incentive to come, they're more likely to show up. We should have vaccines and testing available here, educational literature, demonstrations, and we're having books. There'll be $5,000 of the grants earmarked for new books in regards to this.
Can I make a suggestion?
Hello? Good.
Dennis, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but real quick, that grant, and I would reach out to the Board of Health, the new lady, the direct, Amy. They just received the grant for 320,000 I worked on with COVID-19. So you guys might have some synergy working together as far as shared, shared resources, because especially since it's the same universe of people, is while we got this grant and they got a grant, is how do we work together servicing all of Linden residents using the same resources? So we're not duplicating efforts. It might make sense to have a meeting with Amy.
That literally was next on my list of.
Sorry.
Work.
I have her phone number if you need it.
Yes, we do want partners, so local schools, churches, obviously the city, Board of Health. We can reach out to the county, so we really want to make this work. The Department of Health wants to make this work, and we want to make this work. So this can be something we can be really proud of. And we're also looking to add exercise programs, yoga, Pilates, etc. So keep you up to date when this will actually be starting, and definitely looking forward to it.
Can I jump in for a second? I was talking about, my team, and I think they both should be acknowledged. Dennis and Teresa, who actually, it was more of that with Mike and his team. And I really apologize. I feel a little excited over his $162,000. That's where all the, who we brought to the
One of the things I like this structure of how they break down. When you guys think about how they break down the activities in a month, it's really, I am very impressed with the organizational structure of how they put that up. Dennis, is everything going to be done here or some is going to be done outside?
I'm not sure. I think they want to do it here, but if we're working with the city, we could probably use some of their property too. So when we talked, there was some talk about branching out. So
That'd be a good idea because it brings the library to the neighborhood.
I've done a health fair at the high school several years ago. I had some professional athletes. They came out and, we kind of talked about the whole exercise and all that. So at some point maybe. So that would be open to a lot of, community and so on. So that would be good. Absolutely.
I like the whole structure of everything. My last question is how are we going to market this?
yeah, I mean, we certainly have our ways of getting out, but that's also why we're looking to partner with other community agencies, city, churches, schools, and obviously if the Department of Health has avenues, we'll take advantage. Because I said they clearly want this to work, so I'm sure they would have suggestions. Certainly, we get things out to the various neighborhoods.
Even Beijing, Rutgers has a small program that they started to want to see take off about social work and libraries. So I'm sure that you get some other, support there. So you can really make it a job itself.
And how many languages you plan to market this?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
That's for you use software. Maybe get somebody to do that can translate it.
But isn't it, you mentioned, isn't it a software where somebody could just read it and get it?
That's not going to be a long document as, so, I mean, just look at the health insurance forms, right? Your medical, and it has all the languages up there. You know what I'm talking about.
Because on the web, they were looking for a lot of different languages that they can help us with.
But the city has that data of which languages are the most, the schools have that data also, that's a state, record, you know, because, that's data that's collected from families, so we could service them.
And the big ones we seem to face are Polish, Spanish, and Russian, but we wouldn't limit that either, so. we
Yeah.
get it, but-
Yeah, Creole is probably, Creole, Spanish, and above Polish.
I'm actually impressed with what's going on last week. Let's hope that we can get budget passed.
Oh, the budget, this would be just for this, it's not included.
Nothing to do with the budget. Nothing to do with the budget.
Right.
Yeah, there's
That's right.
really no grants that cover operating expenses.
No,
Most of them actually specifically state you cannot use these for operating.
Actually, talking about all this, if you come across any, Peter, you mentioned about that we only have one library in our city, which is very true, and it's actually not a really good statement. We have a fabulous library here, but for our population, there should be more libraries. So if there's a grant out there where a new one could be constructed, located like a school core area, that'd be fabulous. They had one, I know. So the fact that we eliminated libraries is not a good point. I know they
Well,
have,
we had 5 at one time.
I
believe
know,
it or not.
I know, and that's.
Well, the problem is down the road, everything's fine if you build a building. It's the maintenance 30 years later.
Well, of
That's the big problem. All these buildings, everything was falling apart. You know, that's the way the politicians went down the road. And we did the right thing at the time.
Guys, you don't have to rebuild. I mean, you don't have to build places. You have community centers within Linden that you can use the infrastructure within it to build some of these community libraries. Like take the 8th Ward, they have a building within their park that if that's renovated, you can bring books in there. Same thing with some of the other places like over there by Wilson, right? You have a big room in there that could be renovated to bring more books and more functionality of the library. You can use the synergy with the recreation department. The municipal budget used to be recreation and library. I agree, we need more libraries, but how do we work smarter and work together with the city and share resources in city structures that we have to accomplish the same thing? Bill, I mean, we can use grant money to renovate and put structures, components, like almost outreach, like out hubs of the library.
You don't need big structures, but you
Yeah.
need more than books, you need qualified people. A book can just sit here, you can literally go off little free libraries and go get them, but if you don't have passionate librarian behind it to support, encourage, and get the people motivated, it's going to be just a book warehouse. And libraries should not be book warehouses. That's why to me, it's really important that we get the structure and everything, but focusing on programming and getting people excited and into the door, because if they're not coming through, it doesn't matter how many books you have, if they're not using them.
And I 100% agree with you. And that's why I said that you have to do the partnership with the recreation. Because a lot of times people think library, they think books. The library in the city of Linden has had a really good program with the Friends of the Library, with Dennis, with Dawn, Teresa. Like they have been really good at keeping that like fun feel to it, the librarians. And now with the recreation, they can help with the synergy of the cross blend, because they're supposed to be the fun, the sports. This is where you bring the synergy and the partnerships together. So I totally 100% agree with you, because my kids do both.
I totally agree. Peter, I think that don't we have a community center in every ward?
I don't think so. I
Oh,
don't think so.
I think we
You
have.
have the main John
Jay.
Jacob, the Lord.
And then the one down, by the railroad tracks, I used to
Oh,
work
that's
out there.
the old
So
park, right?
What-
LMPC Center. So
Yeah.
what we can do is, what I would suggest is when we present a budget to the city, right, is present this idea of activating some of these nodes, right? Let's just say the Gregorio Center and LPC, but in that budget, we can say we want to hire an extra librarian too. They're housed within the structure of the library, right, under Dennis and under the trustees, but they can work in satellite. There's room at some of these other buildings. This is where the partnership comes in. The LPC Center, we can work with Ralph, who's a college, he came from a community college. We hired him because we wanted him to blend with the education and the youth. If we say we want to partner up and utilize the LMP Center, right? And have a librarian there for programs, and we utilize some of the room and we have a budget, right? And we work with the city, who's going to say no? That's the type of forward thinking and innovation that we can use. Hiring the professional is underneath the library, but we utilize the city structure. It's like an outreach.
I really believe that we should have satellite centers in our community centers as opposed to building new buildings. Because the kids have to be able to get to them.
I can tell you, I'm the only librarian in our entire, myself and one other librarian in the entire school district. I am right now giving services to over 3,000 kids, and I'm proud to say I have had in the past, since we just opened up, 3 days, 4 days, I had over 40 checkouts, and most of them were by boys. I was so happy. And they brought books back and they came. Well, no, not entirely, because we don't have in the elementary level, they cut us all out because of budgets. So we don't have school librarians, which means that we can't teach the lessons of what to do and so on. So, I mean, there's a lot. So there's a lot. Here? Yes.
Dennis or Teresa.
Okay, access to the internet, but they don't know what they, do you know that students come into me and into because it's called the Learning Commons, and I say, this is the library Learning Commons, so I want them to get used to the word library. And they say, can I check out books? Yeah, please. Tonight's meeting, I know that library card sign up is the month of September. I want every student, and somehow, I don't know, whatever product is set aside, there's gotta be time for it. Students should have access to library cards, especially the high school students, because they can digitally access the databases and so on. So,
Talk to me later.
yeah, it's.
We've done things like that before.
Yeah. But the whole thing of like having a parent to come in, we are like, there's certain things that need to be negotiated that are not going to be conducive for these families to come down on Saturday or after work or whatever to sign a card. If it's a student who has a student ID and they've been approved by the board as a student, we should work on something.
You're kind of, if I'm hearing you correctly.
And then you do that, and the student doesn't return materials. That's when the parents say, we didn't sign. So
Right.
that's kind of why we.
No, but Dennis,
No.
the way I'm thinking you're describing it is very similar to if I have my ID for college.
Right.
My college ID allows me into the campus, but it also allows me to access the library, right? And in the library, I have access to those things like that. But I have the functionality in the library of discontinuing the library privileges based off XYZ. Are you talking about something similar to that?
Well, they're separate entities right now, which they can't
Yes.
combine because one's school, one's public. I get that. But we need to have a bridge program in between. So
Why can't we combine them? We probably, James, is that something we can look into?
yeah, it will take some time to, but I definitely want to
Figure it out.
hear now.
It would like as many people.
Of course, of course.
Because it will help if you could bridge most of these, because libraries, they're no longer called libraries anymore. They are all resource centers. So we need to be able to utilize the resources, to bridge each one of these services and have, the people of Linden, have access to the resources that they need to pay for resume writing, all the different stuff, because most of those stuff, you have to pay for it online. Right, if you need some of it, and if you have a resource center that have all these, services, that we don't have to pay for it if we are a member, it has. Is, yeah.
No, I'm just thinking down the road, in a way, you know, I like the idea, and that's because I have youthful people around here now. You know, one of the other reasons we closed one of these branches years ago, was nobody was going. So the question is, you know, we accepted 2 people, say a librarian, a clerk, and a janitor, so even at 30 hours a week, that's 6 hours of paying out, and we said it would be just cheaper to call the library with a van, drop you off the book, especially like, and then my point is, now it's 20 years later, technology is different. I have no problems with anything that's new. The question is, will the politicians want to take, you know? Yeah.
2 million.
I can fight with politicians for years.
I owe a book. No one's came after me.
You know, I mean, I like your idea, and I think it's wonderful, but you know, again, will the city fathers be receptive? Because this will not come cheap.
Yeah, no.
If they say.
Guys, I owe a book.
Rights and we'll give
Listen,
you.
Peter wanted to say something.
I owe a book. I owe a book, quantum physics. I never returned the book back. Now, that being said, is that we have a process of when people owe books or reaching out to them. I'm sorry. I'd rather kids be overdue on books than not reading any books. Then we know the kids that are actually reading. So we can work out these simple stuff. I think that this innovation, these ideas, that when we take it back, we should budget it and present it and work out this stuff. This is something that's good. I've never heard of an idea like this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that you know, but a lot of public libraries are completely doing away with fines. They're just not charging fines. And especially in our community, you have things that aren't foster care. They're not going to bring, their library card is the first time they actually get an identification card. They may not be in this home to return it that book. Now, if it's like a county thing, it may show up or may not. They get like, oh, I'm kicked out of the library, I can't use it. There's such a stigma about like, we need to do this. Anyway, again, that's a different conversation for a different meeting, but there are ways that we can support our youth and outreach programs and satellites. If you want to do a resume center, you could do at school 4 area. That is your career center. Maybe you could just have people, you know, and there are so many ways. So that's why to me, spending $200, $300 on someone to transcribe per month for a year, that's a van right there, where you can like have a book van and come out. I've seen the designs of them. They literally roll out the stuff, the kids show up. You take a scanner on your cell phone, you scan them, they have their school ID, boom, you're done. Like it's for their library card. Anyway, I don't mean to belabor this. We can.
Honestly, I think it's a good idea, but I think personally.
I love the passion.
We should start bridging our services first before we start investing in more services. Because you as well as I know, we have to pull teeth in order to get money. So if you have to pull teeth in order to get money, asking for a new library or whatever, when you also made your point, we have technology now. So I think with the technology, when you go to a college or university support hundreds of thousands of students all over the world. And they basically have one resource center. And the resource center is set up where they have libraries within libraries, because each discipline have their own library. They have their own resource center. So that when you go into the college or university that have hundreds of courses, if they don't have libraries within one library in order for you to get the information you need, then students will find nothing. All I'm just saying is that as forward thinkers and as the fact that we want to market our formal library so that everybody that live in our city could utilize the services from a library. We have to find out what is done by the major universities that they are in, so all the students, see if we can get a new version of it that could work in, that could be cost effective.
Sorry.
You know, again,
We can have
we can have it forever, but we gotta move on.
Yes, we can. So
We
let's
gotta
go
move
through
on.
that. It was just, if you come across any grant that would apply for satellite services and so on, I think that's something that should be addressed.
But it's the thing with, and I think it's a great, great conversation, all right? And this is the type of conversations to keep in libraries, because this is what we are all about. You know, so now I think, moving forward, anybody have anything to say before we move forward? Nobody? Okay, so I guess what we going on now is it director's report or policy? Policy, okay. Policy committee. Peter, you had this great idea. Could you share it with us? Then we can.
He's on the phone.
It's on the phone.
He's on the phone.
Oh, it's a shame, it's about the telescope, right?
Yes.
I think it's something, yeah, that's a telescope there. And in the report, it states that people will get this telescope, you will be able to get a telescope, but if you, when you check it back in, you can't use it for another month.
They're limiting, yes. When you don't have to do this, they recommend, we got this from the generosity of the Rotary Club. They told us other libraries in the area that also got a telescope. They recommended we get some ideas from them. We don't have to do that. I mean, the idea is just to see how well it circulates, because if you, I mean, we have the same problem with some reading books in the past, where you'll have one person takes out the book for 2 weeks, they bring it back, they get their sister to take it out, then they bring it back, they get the mother to take it out. So we only have a limited amount of books, and we sometimes have the books circulating in the same family for the entire summer. So the idea is we only have one telescope. We wind up being very popular and turns into, Jim decides to borrow it, takes it out for a week, brings it back. Then Jane, his wife, takes it, brings it back. Then Jim takes it. So it could literally just stay between those two people forever. So the idea is to, at least for starters, it's exciting to have this, and we've never offered anything like this before. And to make sure everyone has it available. We have 50 telescopes, we wouldn't necessarily care about such a limit. But and obviously if it's not that popular and we have limited interest, then I wouldn't have a problem with the person taking it out multiple weeks. But it's something I'd like to assume it's going to be a draw. And certainly other libraries have said that there has been a lot of interest, a lot of people waiting to take it out. So that provision's in there to stave off it staying in, it basically becomes their property if you can just keep circulating it among the same family.
So it's $500 replacement cost.
Yes, that's what that is.
Do we have any insurance on it or?
Not at this point. We just got this a few weeks ago. And, it's been sitting in my office because we didn't even we took pictures and we haven't even put them up on Facebook because I didn't want to put it out there and have people possibly come into with a telescope because I wanted policy. So the last thing we had a policy for something this major was when we added laptop, and that was also special provisions. So
that someone would sign something, some sort of waiver, and
it's
so on.
basically a copy of the policy that they have to sign off on, that they're accepting all these terms. And
How
that's
do we
it.
get our whole money? I said they paid $500. If they break it, they pay $500. But how do we actually recover that $500?
They have to pay $500.
Yeah, but how could you enforce it? Could we
Well, that's always difficult.
You know, so
It was a donation.
It was a donation that, losing, we don't want to think like that, but I mean, the most we could do is take them to court. If it came down to it, which obviously we don't want to do, but, so yes, technically, the person could take it the first time, never bring it back, say, I'm not paying you $500. We'd rather that not be the case, obviously, so.
And maybe the Rotary Club will decide if they have such an interest that they may want to donate 2 or 3 more.
They said the libraries they've dealt with and donated to in the past have said it's been so popular, they have requested to be considered for future donations. And Rotary Club says we have other libraries we'd like to share with. So I don't think they're doing any repeat donations yet, but certainly it was a nice when they contacted me and said we want to do this for you. Great.
I consider getting an insurance.
So what about we just do a club? Bill Nye, the science guy, is in charge of the Planetary Club. He's the CEO. I follow him on Instagram, and what some kids are doing is they're using telescopes to look up in the sky. If we do maybe some type of club and allow these students who like the stars and universe would be able to see those kids who are checking out these books, is encourage them to use the microscope. Let them look up in the stars. They let them form their own little type of science club.
So Peter, I'm also a member of the astronomy club in Union County College. So speaking of college, which isn't too far from here, which I always have students go over there, and that observatory is actually like state of the art. And they do programs there too. So that's another bridging area that we can have.
I got 3 contacts. I got 3 telescopes at home and a contact at NASA.
There you go.
Are you getting any, for example, what Maria just spoke about, are you getting any type of, it's the astronomy?
Everything was shut down. It just, everything was shut down because of obviously, so.
Because of COVID. But we also have the opportunity again to build relationships because we have the Liberty Science Center, Mary McDonald, who we used to in the past work with. I'm literally right across and over here in the windows, the Liberty Science Center. By doing partnerships again with these organizations helps with the programming. The telescope, you center around with the STEM banners that are downtown, Galileo, some of those guys in astronomy are on those banners. They're being taught in school. The library, again, can help build the partnerships, whether it's with the school system, the Liberty Science Center. I mean, that's where the programming comes in, is building those partnerships. So we have a telescope here. I have no problem working with whoever else wants it. I got 3 at home.
I think that, we're moving in the right direction. We have grants, we have telescope, we have, not taken away, and that's a beautiful thing, right?
To answer the question, I think you were gonna ask me, no, we have not investigated these things yet because step 1 was getting policy on the books. So we didn't want to do, we want a policy before we move forward.
So then maybe later on, we consider whether or not we get insurance.
Absolutely. We can look at insurance and cover all of that.
It should not be that expensive because it's a.
We also can use these things for our own programs too. The children's librarian met with them when they showed up, and she had astronomy program in the past where people have bought telescopes, and certainly we can just, not saying we won't have them, but we can also do a program ourselves if we have the equipment.
And Maria, this is the library, but do you have any good astronomy program in the K-12, Linden K-12, what are you planning to?
There is, in the curriculum, at different age levels, they, do some studies, but not a specific astronomy club.
I can't hear. What was the question?
Is there a specific astronomy course? It's in the curriculum as far as, the sciences, but not.
Is there a way for me to share my screen with you guys? Because I can show you guys 2 things.
I know the NASA program, I sent it to Dennis earlier today, that's really big, it has a lot of resources there for education and so on. So
Well,
that's a key program.
What they do And you can also go on NASA's website. There's a tab there for STEM learning. Under their Explore program, from K through all the way up to high school, that they have science, technology, engineering, math programs dealing with NASA-related topics.
I sent that earlier, actually, when I saw the telescope thing, I sent that out. It's just, you need people to run it. You need qualified people. It's not that these things don't exist, you need people to work them, to be there.
Dennis, can you share my screen?
I don't know how you can do that. I don't know if you can do that.
All right, so
Yes.
So Dennis,
On the endgame lovers of the Star Wars.
Dennis, you there?
Like that. Anyway, anything else before we move to the next area?
If you can, I can't see you guys. If you can, I don't know the young lady who's speaking. If you can give her my phone number and I could talk offline with her, and so that by the next meeting, we can have some type of plan so that we're not taking up so much time.
Hey, Peter, we've met before in school. So I will reach out to you. I've actually worked with your children in school.
So you probably have my old phone number. You need the new one.
I have the email. I don't know about that, but yeah, I'm sure we have it on record. We have it to our account. I will, yeah. You have the information. We have our shared information.
Okay, so moving forward, seeing that we have no more questions, we are going now to Building and Grounds Committee. Ayana Bird. Ayana.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Do you have anything to share regarding the Buildings and Grounds Committee?
No, not at this time.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you.
Can you hear me? Did anyone hear me?
So anybody have any?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
I do, but I can wait. We have put out an RFP for elevator maintenance repair services. The closing date October 21st, 2021. Also, the flooring RFP. So for the November meeting, we should have some responses. We have had a lot of problems with our elevator. I believe the day that you came for board training, the elevator was not working properly. It was working okay for a month or so. It went down again. It's been okay, but we don't trust it. So we are looking to potentially get a new elevator. So we have put in an RFP and we have till, like I said, in November, in November for the meeting, we should have an update. And the HVAC went down the other day. Fortunately, it was not during a heat wave, but it was still getting uncomfortable. And they needed a part, and I was actually about to send an email out to the board members this morning and warn you, and then they came and fixed it. So just that's it.
Anybody have anything else to share about our Building and Grounds? Then we're going to move to the next item on our agenda, or Personnel Committee. All right, and of course, our committee chair is not here today, but we have a guest. Yes.
We authorized me to look for a librarian at the July meeting, and I interviewed. My recommendation is Leanne Nana, who is in the audience. And, so I wasn't sure if you found that, but yeah, so it's my recommendation that pending the standard background check and physical and other incidentals that we hire.
You know, when I looked up.
Yo.
Down here to chill. The thing is.
Go ahead, let's finish this library board meeting.
Read to me. And I kept changing pages. And
Yeah,
turning
library
pages.
board meeting.
Wow, this young lady have something to say. You know, I was reading everything and I was really impressed with all the different, you know, what someone who have love for library. Yeah. This young lady has a lot.
I mentioned to Dennis that you're a unicorn.
That's not the first time I've heard that either.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that I was impressed with a lot of the people who applied. There were a lot of really good candidates. So hopefully you will vote to let's move forward.
But my question is, and I don't know, this is not something that I, you know, we have an opportunity to not ask questions, but have her share a little bit of herself with us, so is that off limits?
Honestly, she's willing to.
We work with you, you don't have to give us permission.
She probably wouldn't come otherwise.
So, would you, share a little, Peter and Ayana, I don't know, he's on the phone.
No, I can, hold on for a second. I can hear you, but I can't see you.
They need more light to see me.
Yeah, I'll call you right back.
Anyway, we have this young lady, Indiana, she is, interviewing for the librarian position.
I can't see anyone. Dennis did something.
And, hello?
I just can't see because I think the camera's off.
Yes, and we want her, she's gonna share a little bit of herself with us.
She's
And
hired.
The director gave us permission to talk with her, so, if you would like to tell us a little bit about yourself and if you know anything about the city of Linden. Yes.
So, my name is Linden. I actually grew up in Linden. I've been a lifelong resident. I actually live not that far away on Morristown Road. And we came here all the time when I was little. And so I like everything you guys are saying about like the programs and everything, because that's what really kind of got me into libraries as a child. I always liked to read, but I liked coming for like all the different programs and events when I was little. And that kind of stuff is what drew me to libraries when I was older. Is that opportunity to learn more, because I realize when you're in a library, you get to read and interact with all the different material, which is fun for me. But also just the opportunity to serve the public by making knowledge easier to access, but also giving them like fun ways to interact with it. So, I graduated from library school in September 2020 with my master's in library information science and in public history. So I do have the history background as well.
But in here, you know, learning is such a big thing. What area do you think that most to focus more in the atmosphere of being a librarian?
I always really did like history, and I like doing a lot of like the local history stuff. So I volunteered at some different historical societies. I went with the one in Plainfield for a couple of years. I went to Kane University in Linden, so they have the Liberty Hall Museum there. So I volunteered with them for a while. They have a collection of rare books, and I cataloged all of their rare books and put them in their system so that they could actually use them, because they just had boxes of 600 books and didn't really know what was in there. Yeah, I like history. I like kind of local history more, less so like the big picture and more of what was like a person's everyday life, like what was, you know, what used to be where my house is now, that kind of stuff. I think is really fun.
I do have a question. So when I learned cataloging, I would have preferred to poke needles in my eyes every day if I had to do cataloging. It is a very precise science, very, very, very precise. But it's also very satisfying when you like get it together. It's like finding that little piece of a puzzle and it all falls together. So it's a very sophisticated niche. Would you be able to, handle so many primary resources? Would you be able to maybe, or would you be comfortable, like maybe have a class maybe with students about that? Yeah, how you use that in your field, because people don't know what cataloging is. Yeah. The term mark, it actually stands for something, and anytime I heard the word mark, I was seriously like, what does it mean, mark? You know, follow? No, but it's cataloging term, and it's how things are organized. But when you look at it, it's all coded. So it's a coded language. But where librarians, especially someone who's cataloging, it's so specific that they speak their own language. So when I was before, it's a very magical, and so I'm very excited that we have the opportunity to have you here. I'm so excited to meet you, and actually you look very familiar. I think we've met before in some library circles. Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions to ask her in her area of expertise? My knowledge is extremely limited. We're gonna go with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to do some classes with you with the high school students.
I think that would be great. I worked a lot with high schools, and I worked a lot with college students. I've done a little bit with, I worked with Richard and groups, so I do different stuff with them.
That's where I go.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, okay.
There we go.
Okay, so for the same church.
Yeah, that's why I started here, but I know I've seen you elsewhere too, but community, this is what community is, right? We live in the same community. My brother lived on Morristown Road.
Any other questions to ask? Getting before you leave, what is the next step?
So to, someone makes a motion to hire and vote, and
We can barely hear you.
There's other stuff we'll have to deal with, like she has to deal with her, she has to get her, she has to get her physical background check at standard.
So you say that you already interviewed everyone, or you thought this lady would be the best candidate?
Yes.
It's just a little.
Like I said, it was very difficult. They had a lot of good candidates and she could choose.
I have a quick question for you. The technical skills and was very impressed. Back what we used here, any of those programs.
She didn't know TLC, right? It was not TLC. No, she doesn't have she does the basis of catalog, but she doesn't know her specific system, but there are plenty of people who show.
And that's very common for like each specific library has their own, but you need to have a foundation. By this
I know,
resume,
no, yeah, I see, she's got a lot here.
There are a lot of different circulation and cataloging systems, and ideally come in knowing it, but most people don't. I don't think any of the candidates actually, or just most of the candidates did not have any experience with TLC. But the important thing is actually knowing how to do catalog.
I didn't know how much it mattered.
No.
I think.
give us some items and let us catalog it.
Well, the thing is, I want you to know that I am not easily swayed. I'm the type of person I like to dig deep. But when I looked at your idea, I love to dig deep. Because no, I am not a great person, I'm very black and white, so I need to know. And when I read your resume, I said, wow,
That's very impressive.
Yes, and then I read it a second time, I said, oh, wow, I was very, very impressed with your journey. Right, and I think as a young lady, I can imagine it has only just begun. You know, so I was very impressed. And, of course, I see this young lady at my left is totally excited.
I am.
And she is more, she has a more in-depth knowledge of the library science than I do. And she is impressed.
I graduated, Rutgers 2019 also. Yeah.
So my question is, her vote for nomination and acceptance. So you,
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
I guess you have it. Sorry, not me.
No, I was say you can roll call on that, or?
Or do we have to do a roll
You
call?
don't have to, but you want to make sure you get, you want to make sure you get the votes
All
from
right,
people.
so then we're gonna do a roll call on whether or not we move forward with hiring Ms. Lehan for our cataloging librarian. And it's gonna be finished.
I can take care of it. Maria Polish,
Yes.
Robert Ayers,
Yes.
Dr. Berghammer, Susan Stanch,
Yes.
Deborah Azevedo,
Yes.
Deanna Bird,
Yes.
Peter Brown.
Yeah.
That's unanimous.
Yeah, wow, that was good. How everybody vote. It's the same vote for one person. This is the first time I'm seeing it.
Fresh back from vacation.
Okay, so what next for this young lady? Is that you know that we passed?
We'll contact you tomorrow.
Okay, so I guess, so that's it. The next, item, is there anything else for personnel next, we missing out?
No.
Nothing else right now? Okay, technology committee, Nancy, I'm excited, do we have anything? All right, so now we're gonna move to the director's report.
Really, almost everything in my report's already been covered somewhere, but, at, our library assistant Rose Ventura, Mauro Cadero, Dawn Breviano have completed several classes encompassing a wide array of library-related topics, mending, cataloging, early literacy, Dewey Decimal System, and best practices. For statistics, in July, we had 2,362 items checked out and 170 renewals. August, 2,013 items checked out and 167 renewals. We had 161 new borrowers added in July, and 17 of those were for the online the online system, and 132 new borrowers added in August, and 13 were online. And everything else was covered.
So, any unfinished business? Any, you come before the end, anybody have to ask, and have any questions to ask regarding the director's report? So then we can move to, do you have anything, Mr. X?
No, I'm good.
All right. So now we have to talk about unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business that we have to address today, Mr. Purvis?
That I know of.
Finalize what we're. The employee with the. Okay, in charge. Okay,
Right there.
okay, sorry.
Okay, so I guess we have covered everything in our meeting so far.
Comments in public.
And do we have any comments from the public today? So we have any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? So I guess we will move forward with our next meeting. Our next meeting will be held, is scheduled to be held on October 4th, 6:30 p.m. Now, do we have a motion to adjourn? Is that it? We can adjourn, right?
I just wanted to say, I'm sorry we've had technical difficulties. It did work properly earlier, and it's been kind of downhill since. But sorry.
It was a very serious thing. I'm so excited. You really love libraries.
And you know what, I'm so, it's the first time that we have students back, and I had covered from kindergarten through now 12th, the high school. And so I have not ever had a full library. I literally had these tote bags, and I would carry bags and bags of books. I mean, this sister has been to the school, I would invite her in, and she would see, and you do it the best that you can. But then to be at the high school and to actually have students come in, and boys who come up and they're like really quiet, and they're like, I really think I should start reading books. I'm like, let me get it. If you don't like it, come back tomorrow and tell me you hated it, and that's okay. And they did.
Absolutely. This meeting and-
I just.
Who is, I'm sorry, who is speaking?
So we want to, call to adjourn the meeting. Next meeting is October 4th. Who is going to make the motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, so thank you everyone for coming, including the public, and we hope to see all in favor? Aye.
Dennis, give me a call.
Next meeting, young lady.
Friends who are like their part-time.
Yeah.